We're old believers. We're not supposed to be public people. We'd rather not be filmed or shown on television. We're supposed to live a quiet life and keep distant from worldly matters. That's what we need if we're to keep our traditions. We'd be glad not to be disturbed too much.
This small community of Orthodox traditionalists returned to Russia just over a year ago. Their ancestors emigrated to Latin America in the 1940s. Coming back to their homeland has been their cherished dream ever since.
Good morning, class. Sit down. This year, we've been joined by children from Bolivia. Let's trace the long journey that these students undertook to get to their new homeland. They came to Primorye through Moscow.
I only object to my children going to that school because some of the school children there curse and smoke. In fact, they're raised more by the school than by their own parents. If we were to send our children to that school, we wouldn't last long.
Ulyan is the community's head. The 47-year-old man has 9 children. He was born in Latin America, like many of the community's members. He spent most of his life there. Ulyan leads the community because he is the oldest of his siblings, who came to Russia with him. There was a falling out with his younger brother over how their children should be educated.
We're not against education as such. Learning makes people wise. Ignorance is darkness. We always teach our children how to read and write.
This is the school attended by the children of the Old Believers. Classes are still taught the way they were at the time of the Schism of the Orthodox Church back in the 17th century. Children gather in the home of the teacher to learn to read religious books written in the Old Slavonic language. The teacher is one of Ulyan's brothers.
The children start with the ABCs. At first they learn texts by heart, and only then do they learn the letters. We learn how to pray. We pray in the morning when we wake up, and in the evening when we go to bed. All the rules are here.
The pupils are not divided into groups. Their progress depends on the set of religious books they read.
I teach nothing but the Old Slavonic language. If the teacher is absent, mothers teach their children to read and write instead.
The Old Believers take a simple view of education. Since they are Christians and live in the countryside, they need to learn religious rites and farming skills. They have no use for the present-day system of schooling and instead follow their ancestors who strongly rejected the 17th century reform of Orthodox liturgical canon. For the past 300 years, they have taken pains to protect their traditions by staying as distant from the outside world as possible to resist the impact of civilization. Throughout their history, they have wandered the globe in search of the most secluded retreats. Terenti's family lives in a prefabricated apartment house which stands in the midst of a field near Karpovka. He has 7 children. Terenti was the only community member to send his children to a state school.
Before they left for Dersu, there was a row over that school. They said to us, if you don't send your kids to school, you're welcome to go with us. Otherwise, we'll do without you. We haven't reached an agreement. They left and didn't tell us.
Well, there are so many people with education who live in Russia. And a lot of them, well, they don't even have jobs. We've always tried to live and work in rural areas. And we were just as comfortable as those learned people. Certainly, we never went hungry.
Have the cows come back, Denis? I think they should be around here somewhere.
Rocky soil makes farming difficult in Karpovka. Terenti no longer grows crops. His cow helps his family make ends meet. She is free to graze together with the cattle belonging to local people. The trouble, though, is that she tends to stray towards evening.
Marta, 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 come home.
Now that the community has left Karpovka, Terenti is toying with the idea of going to Russia's western part. He believes the soil there is suited for farming. But due to the resettlement program, he is forced to stay in the Far East for another year.
I invited my brother to join us. We even set aside a farmstead for him. Anyway, it's up to him to decide.
Vacant flats are all that is left of the community of Karpovka.
We prayed in this flat. It's almost been emptied, but there are a few things still there. That's why there's a lock on the door. This was my brother's flat, Ulyan. His family left before Easter. Oh, I can't tell you exactly how many people lived here. 11, maybe.
Yefrem, Ulyan's son, is still here in this block. He is going to collect some of the belongings left behind.
I live here alone. I am planning to leave on Friday evening because I don't like this place. Dersu is a better place. It's away from the hustle and bustle. Few secular people live there.
Yefrem says he will not be missing his uncle Terenti too much.
Terenti wanted to come here when he was in Brazil. So I bought tickets for his family. He now owes me around $20,000. That's almost 600,000 rubles. But when he did come here, he began to look for excuses not to give the money back.
Terenti and family appear to be stuck in this 5-story building.
Come in, welcome. This is our flat. This is a bedroom. It's for the girls. One of them's older than the other. And this is our bedroom. We sleep there, and 2 little girls sleep here. 2 boys are in another flat. We've packed up to go to the Kaluga region, but we still can't bring ourselves to leave this place. This is our kitchen and my wife. She's cooking. Our community scolded us for sending them to that school for a whole year. If we'd kept on living with them, we'd have gone on suffering.
I feel hurt by what Ulyan has done. He tore us away from a cozy nest and abandoned us. I can't bear it.
Sorrente has 7 or 8 children. They'll do fine. They'll find work and a place to live. But old believers don't lead a normal life outside their community. If a family breaks away, they'll learn secular ways after a time. They'll no longer live in a way that befits old believers.
Only 2 options are open to Cherienti. Either he comes to terms with the community and pays his debt, or waits for permission to go to Russia's west.
Is that Yefrem?
This is my son.
Ulyan meets his son Yefrem, who has arrived by ferry boat. The river separates the village of Dersu from the rest of the world. Yefrem has brought all kinds of things in his truck, but the boat is too small. The settlers will have to shuttle between the banks 15 times in order to get the cargo back to their village. They would like the authorities to organize a better ferry service, but the problem is that there are only 2 villages on the far bank. It's the price that people have to pay if they want to live far away from civilization.
We're on our way to the Kilins and the Marichovs. They came all the way from Uruguay and Bolivia. Now there are more than 50 such people in Dersu. They will live here and build houses.
Alexander Bolotin was a one-time head of the administration of one of the nearby villages. Now that he is retired, he takes fishermen on guided tours of local forests and rivers. He maintains good relations with the new Russians living in neighboring villages.
I visit them often. Right now I'm bringing a doctor to them.
A doctor has arrived in Dersu. Old believers take an ambivalent view of medicine. If medics come to them, then it's fine. But if they go to a doctor themselves, it's problematic. Most diseases are treated with traditional methods like medicinal herbs.
We use some medical herbs. Drink tea with them, dry herbs for winter as well as roots. There are a lot of good herbs in Dersu.
The old believers do, however, allow some exceptions. Medication is allowed for severe pain while women go to hospital to give birth. However, there have been instances of expectant mothers escaping from hospital just before they were due to deliver. But in general, old believers have few health concerns.
Let me examine your skin. It's clean. How are your legs? Let's listen to your heart. There is nothing to worry about. It's not scary. Our children are not as healthy as theirs. They're healthy from life in such an environmentally pure place.
The old believers settled in the village of Karfovka after their arrival in Russia, but it felt too close to modern civilization. Ulyan managed to find an uninhabited village in the country's far east. Rolling hills and a river separate the village of Dersu from the rest of the world. Fyodor Kilin is the community's spiritual leader. He is 72 years old. Fyodor can talk about his family for hours on end.
I have 3 daughters and 1 son in Russia. 1 daughter lives in Australia. Another daughter and 2 sons are in Uruguay. Yet another daughter is in Argentina. I think I have 53 grandchildren and 25 great-grandchildren. I don't know the exact figure.
A reform of liturgical practices in the 17th century triggered a schism within the Russian Orthodox Church. The Old Believers are so called because they never accepted the new rules. Worshippers were subjected to continuous persecution by church officials and authorities for 3 centuries. Throughout those years, Old Believers had to either hide or flee the country. Today, there is no more hostility, but they still want to live in accordance with their own rules.
Old Believers don't accept gutted fish from lay people because they've been gutted. For their part, they clean the whole fish themselves. Their plates and dishes that they use differ from those used by lay people too. They need to be clean. Even their knives need to be clean of sin.
The community's worst fear is the prospect of mingling with modern-day civilization. The Old Believers are not supposed to live, eat, or pray together with the lay people. For example, they can't buy meat, sausage, milk, or bread from the shops. Whatever food is needed, they make themselves.
Yeast is the main ingredient of bread made in accordance with Russian traditions. You add water and salt and mix the stuff with flour. That takes half an hour. Then you leave the mixture to sour for about 5 hours. After that, you bake it in a Russian stove. We always do it this way.
Agafia is teaching the girls the art of making bread. She came to Dersu from Uruguay in 2008. Although she is 38 years old, she already has 6 grandchildren.
I don't know exactly the secret of the Russian stove, but I do know that the bread baked in it tastes good. We had Russian stoves back in Uruguay. Having a Russian stove in the household was considered a must.
Agafia's younger daughters live together with her, but her sons are still in Uruguay. They keep a close eye on the life of Old Believers in Russia to decide whether they want to come here.
It's very beautiful here. We decided to stay and are not planning on moving anywhere. When we came here, an old woman by the name of Ulyana lived in this house. She was an Old Believer. After she died 1.5 years ago, we moved into her house. And we're happy to live here. Okay, now it's time to place the dough in the stove.
The village of Dersu received a new lease of life with the arrival of Old Believers. In the morning, they go to church to pray. After that, it's time to get down to work. Children are given an early introduction to adult life. To begin with, the boys are allowed to handle the simplest jobs. Married women here are obliged to cover their head. Agafia is split from her husband, but she wears a scarf nonetheless. There has been no formal divorce.
It's not ready yet. It has to be baked for another 15 minutes or so. My husband is about 43 years old now. Life was normal for us, until once he went to Brazil, where he shaved off his beard. He said he had lost it because of stress. Truly, he was going crazy with the approach of old age. He had ill feeling towards the community. He found everything about it a real grind. He's like Terenti from Karfovka.
Old Believer couples have difficulty getting divorced. As a rule, their wedlock is not officially registered. Old believers don't think that official papers apply to them. They can be divorced, but only in the country where they got married.
It takes 40 minutes for dough to bake in a Russian stove. That's the way we did it in Brazil and Uruguay. This tradition is held up by a recipe handed down from generation to generation. I can't even remember how I learned this skill. That's how bread was made all over Russia in the old days.
The girls are doing embroidery. Not all of the patterns are traditional, given that they spent most of their young lives in Latin America. Some of the patterns reflect Uruguayan motifs. However, most of them are based on Russian folklore.
These black tropical birds called toucans live in Brazil. Watching them fly is a sheer delight. They have very beautiful beaks too. The trouble, though, is that they play dirty tricks by stealing people's fruit.
Some traces of their previous life in Latin America can be found in the households of the Old Believers.
This Colombian machete is made of very good steel. You can see a dove pictured on it. Others bear pictures of monkeys. Such machetes are no good at all. The machete is the weapon of South American tribes. They have no guns. A native picks up a machete, holsters it here, and off he goes. The machete especially came in handy when they were being deprived of their land. They used it in a very effective way. Heads began rolling as they lopped them off with their machetes. It takes a chicken's head off in one go.
Clothing sends a readily identifiable social signal to community members. They instantly know who's who, whether the person is from their midst or an outsider. The length of their dresses, trousers, and shirt sleeves is strictly regimented. They should cover most of the body. Facial hair is another sensitive point. No Old Believer is supposed to be beardless. Old Believers consider that any deviation from canon is indicative of spiritual weakness. They maintain that anyone's appearance should conform to God's instructions.
Ooh, fresh milk. It's still warm. Would you like to try it?
In actual fact, however, this rule doesn't cover those who are not members of the community. Alexander has allowed a family of young Old Believers to live in one of his 2 small houses in exchange for organic food.
On Sundays, the Old Believers stay at home. They don't sell or buy anything. They don't even go fishing in the river because they don't want to kill fish or any other living creatures.
Congratulations to everyone. I wish you all good health and the Spirit of God.
In spite of various restrictions, festive occasions and noisy merrymaking among the community is not affected. Alcohol is not frowned upon on such occasions, but only if it's homemade.
Just look at you, already drinking.
It's not very strong. It's only been brewing for 2 weeks.
Hello, everybody.
Hello!
Drink with us. It's a holiday.
As the villagers move from house to house, the celebrations go on until dusk.
He's my son-in-law, Andrian, and she's my daughter, Anna. Andrian and Anna have 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. All 3 were born in Russia.
She is a Russian woman.
She's not a woman, she's a girl.
She'll be a woman one day.
Happy reunions as well as splits occur in the communities of Old Believers.
Some 20 years ago, my mother fell in love with an Argentinian. Needless to say, no one in the community liked it. My mother and my father then decided to leave. That was a terrible sin. They spent the whole year outside the community. My mother taught Russian to my father and eventually converted him to our faith. After that, She was absolved from her sin. My father's name was Mario Cesar Paro. Now he is called Moses.
The old believers know that they don't keep up with the times, but that's the only way for them to preserve their way of life. Yet despite their conservative views, they are in fact committed to freedom of choice. Anyone is allowed to leave the community to join secular society, and anyone can rejoin the community. These people have voluntarily undertaken to live by their own rules. Old believers don't express disapproval of worldly life, but they sincerely feel sorry for all those who don't follow their lifestyle.
We're settlers who came from Bolivia in Latin America. We used to live there, but decided to come back to Russia, our traditional homeland. Now, we're kindly asking the Russian Federation to help us to put down roots here by building homes. And if at all possible, we'd like to pass on our message to the President of the Russian Federation himself.